They tell you it's just a glitch in the brain, a misfire of neurons where the mind wakes up before the body does. They use clinical terms like atonia and hypnagogic hallucinations to strip the fear away, to wrap the terror in sterile white gauze until it seems manageable. They tell you that you are safe, that the demons sitting on your chest are nothing more than projected shadows of your own subconscious. But they are wrong. I know they are wrong because I haven't slept in 4 days, and I know that if I close my eyes now, even for a second, I won't be coming back to this world. The first time it happened, it was insidious in its subtlety. There was no storm outside, no ominous creaking of floorboards. It was a Tuesday, mundane and gray. I had gone to bed early, exhausted from a week of deadlines that had left my mind feeling like frayed wire. I remember the sensation of the pillow, cool against my cheek, the rhythmic hum of the refrigerator down the hall. I drifted off thinking about grocery lists and unanswered emails. Then, the shift happened. It wasn't a sudden jolt. It was the silence. The ambient noise of the apartment, the fridge, the distant traffic, the settling of the building, simply ceased. It was as if someone had severed the auditory nerve in my brain. I opened my eyes, expecting to see the familiar glow of the street lamp filtering through the blinds. Instead, the room was bathed in a heavy, suffocating darkness that felt thicker than air, a viscous gloom that pressed against my corneas. I tried to roll over. That is the first instinct, isn't it? To seek comfort, to adjust the spine. But my body was a tomb. My arms were leaden weights pinned to the mattress. My legs were distant, unresponsive logs. Panic, cold and sharp, spiked in my chest. I tried to gasp, to suck in a lungful of air, to scream, but my ribs were locked in a vice. I could only take shallow, sipping breaths, barely enough to keep the panic from blacking me out. That's when I felt it. Not saw it. Felt it. There was a displacement of air in the corner of the room, near the closet door. The tiny hairs on my forearms, the ones I couldn't move, stood on end. My eyes, frantic and darting, strained against the gloom. Slowly, the darkness in the corner began to knit itself together. It coalesced into a shape that was almost human, but entirely wrong. It was too tall, its limbs elongated and spindly, like a spider trying to wear a man's skin. It didn't move at first. It just stood there, facing the wall. I tried to tell myself this was a dream. Wake up, I screamed internally. Just wiggle a toe, just move a finger. But the connection was severed. I was a passenger in a corpse. Then the thing in the corner shifted. The sound was wet, like raw meat slapping against tile. It turned its head slowly, grindingly, until it was looking at me. It had no face, just a smooth, pale surface where features should have been, save for a mouth that was merely a vertical slit, stitched shut with something that looked like black wire. It began to move toward the bed. It didn't walk, it glided, its movements jerky and stilted like stop-motion animation missing frames. With every inch it closed, the pressure on my chest doubled. It was gravity manifesting as hate. It stopped right beside the bed. It loomed over me, blocking out the ceiling. I could smell it now, a scent of ozone and stagnant pond water. It bent down, that featureless face inches from mine. I stared up, weeping tears I couldn't wipe away, praying to a god I hadn't spoken to in years. The vertical slit of a mouth tore open. The wires snapped with a sickening ping. "You are almost ripe," a voice whispered. It didn't come from the mouth. It echoed inside my skull, sounding like my own internal monologue, but distorted, deeper, filled with a malice that felt ancient. Then, the adrenaline finally surged enough to break the paralysis. I gasped, my body jerking violently upward as I sat up in bed, screaming a silentless cry into the empty room. The lights from the street lamp were back. The hum of the fridge returned. The room was empty. I sat there for 3 hours, shivering, the sweat cooling on my skin, telling myself it was just a nightmare, just a hallucination. But deep down, beneath the logic and the rationalization, I felt a lingering cold spot on my forehead, exactly where that thing had hovered. It felt like a stain. The next day was a blur of caffeine and anxiety. I tried to work, but the cursor blinking on my screen looked like a counting down timer. Every shadow in my peripheral vision seemed to twitch. I caught myself staring at the corner by the closet, looking for scratches on the paint, looking for evidence. There was nothing, of course, just dust. I told myself I was being childish. I called my mother just to hear a familiar voice. I didn't tell her about the night. I talked about the weather, about work. But as she spoke, her voice seemed to distort for a fraction of a second, dipping into a deep guttural register before snapping back to normal. "Are you eating enough?" she asked. "Yes," I said. "Good," she replied. "We need you strong." I hung up, my hand shaking. Had she said that? Or had my sleep-deprived brain inserted it? I was losing my grip, I knew that. I needed sleep. I needed to reset. That night, I prepared. I left the hallway light on. I drank warm tea. I played white noise, rainfall sounds on my phone to drown out the silence. I lay in bed, clutching a pocket knife I had taken from the kitchen drawer, hiding it under my pillow, a talisman of safety, a joke. What good is a knife when your hands don't work? I fought it for hours, watching the digital clock tick from 11 to 12 to 1 o'clock. But biology is a cruel master. Eventually, my eyelids grew heavy, and I slipped under. The transition was violent this time. There was a loud bang, like a gunshot inside the room. My eyes snapped open. The hallway light I had left on was off. The white noise on my phone had stopped. I was back in the tomb. I tried to reach for the knife. My hand was dead weight. I tried to scream. My throat was sealed with concrete. It was already there. It wasn't standing by the bed this time. It was on top of me. It crouched on my chest, its knees digging into my ribs, pinning me to the mattress. It was heavy, impossibly heavy, dense like a dying star. I could feel the cold radiating off its skin, soaking through my t-shirt, freezing my heart. The face was different. The stitches were gone. The mouth was a gaping black moth filled with rows of translucent needle-like teeth. And it had eyes now. 2 small human eyes that looked remarkably like my own, set deep into that pale, doughy flesh. It was breathing, a ragged, wet sound that sprayed droplets of freezing saliva onto my cheeks. I stared into those eyes, my eyes, and felt a violation deeper than physical pain. It was reading me. It was scrolling through my memories, my fears, my regrets, savoring them like a fine wine. It leaned down, its teeth grazing my ear. The door was open, it whispered. The voice was mine. It was my voice, recorded and played back at a slower speed. You invited me in with your fear. I struggled. I poured every ounce of will I possessed into moving my right hand. "Just the fingers," I begged. "Just the fingers." The thing sensed my struggle. It laughed, a dry, wheezing sound. "You think this is the dream?" it asked, shifting its weight, crushing the air out of my lungs. "You think you wake up from this?" It raised a long, spindly hand. The fingers ended in sharp black nails. It traced a line down my cheek, drawing blood. I felt the sting. I felt the warm trickle of liquid running into my ear. Pain. Real pain. "Dreams don't bleed," it whispered. Then it began to push. It placed its hands over my face, covering my nose and mouth. The suffocation was immediate. My lungs burned. My vision began to spot with purple and black. I was dying. I was actually dying in my bedroom, killed by a hallucination. As the darkness swallowed me, I heard it speak one last time. "Now we trade." I woke up gasping, falling off the bed and hitting the floor hard. I scrambled backward, crab walking into the corner of the room, the knife clattering to the floorboards. It was morning. The sun was streaming through the blinds. Dust motes danced in the light. The room was empty. I sat there, heaving, touching my face. My skin was dry. There was no blood, no scratch. I ran to the bathroom mirror. I inspected my cheek. Nothing, not even a red mark. I began to laugh, a hysterical, broken sound that bounced off the tiles. It was just a dream, a vivid, terrifying, lucid nightmare. I washed my face with cold water, scrubbing until my skin was raw. I needed to get out of the apartment. I needed people. I needed noise. I got dressed and went to a coffee shop down the street. The world seemed overly bright, the colors too saturated. I watched people walking their dogs, couples holding hands. They looked like cardboard cutouts, two-dimensional. I ordered a black coffee. The barista, a young woman with a nose ring, smiled at me. "Rough night?" she asked. "You have no idea," I muttered. She handed me the cup. As our fingers brushed, a shock of cold went through me. Not static electricity. Ice. I looked up at her. For a split second, just the space between two blinks, her face wasn't her face. It was pale, smooth, and the mouth was a vertical slit stitched with wire. I blinked, and she was the barista again, looking at me with concern. "Sir, are you okay?" I have to go." I ran out, spilling the hot coffee over my hand. I didn't feel the burn. That was the first crack in the glass. I looked at my hand, red and blistering, but the sensation was distant, muffled, like I was wearing a thick glove. I went back to my apartment because I had nowhere else to go. I paced the floor. I checked the locks. I checked them 3 times. I realized then that the silence hadn't truly left. Even with the TV on, even with the traffic outside, there was an undercurrent of stillness, a frequency of emptiness that I couldn't tune out. I haven't slept since then. That was 2 days ago, or maybe 3. Time is becoming elastic. It stretches and snaps back. But the worst part, the part I haven't told anyone, the part that makes me want to carve my own eyes out, happened last night. I wasn't asleep. I know I wasn't asleep. I was sitting on the couch, staring at the blank television, holding my eyelids open with sheer willpower. I blinked. That's all. I just blinked. In the time it took for my eyelids to close and open, the room changed. The furniture was the same. The layout was the same. But the light was wrong. It wasn't the orange glow of the street lamps anymore. It was a sickly gray luminescence that seemed to emanate from the walls themselves, and I couldn't move. I was sitting upright on the couch, fully paralyzed. It wasn't sleep paralysis. I hadn't been asleep. It had pulled the paralysis into the waking world. It had bridged the gap. I sat there, a statue in my own living room, unable to turn my head, but I could see the reflection in the dark TV screen in front of me. I saw myself sitting on the couch, and I saw it standing behind the sofa. It was taller now. It reached up to the ceiling, its neck bent at a broken angle so its face could hang down next to mine. It wasn't looking at me. It was looking at the TV reflection, meeting my eyes in the glass. Its hands were resting on my shoulders. I could feel the weight. I could feel the cold. "You're fighting it," the voice whispered. This time, it wasn't in my head. It was audible. It was coming from right beside my ear. "Why are you fighting? The trade is almost done." "What trade?" I tried to scream, but only a dry wheeze escaped. The thing squeezed my shoulders. "I have been in the dark for so long. I am hungry for the light. I want to taste the coffee. I want to feel the sun. And you are so tired. You want to rest, don't you?" It moved one of its hands and covered my eyes. "Rest now." When I pulled the hand away, I was back. The room was normal. The TV was just a black mirror. I was alone. But I wasn't alone. I know I'm not alone. I'm recording this now because I can feel my body shutting down. My blink rate is slowing. My muscles are twitching. The exhaustion is a physical weight, heavier than the thing that sat on my chest. I tried to leave the apartment an hour ago. I walked to the front door, I unlocked it, and turned the handle. It wouldn't open. Not because it was jammed, but because my hand stopped working. My brain sent the signal, turn, and my hand just lay there, limp on the brass knob. I stared at my own hand, willing it to move, screaming at it. Then my hand moved, but I didn't move it. My fingers uncurled from the knob. My hand dropped to my side. My legs turned me around and walked me back to the living room. I am losing control of the vessel. I am sitting here typing this with fingers that feel like they belong to someone else. I can see the corner of the room from here. The shadows are getting longer. They are stretching out, reaching for me. The silence is back. The refrigerator has stopped humming. The traffic outside has ceased. I think I finally understand what the trade is. It wasn't trying to kill me. It wasn't trying to scare me. It was hollowing me out. It was testing the fit. I can feel a pressure in the back of my mind, a presence that is expanding, pushing my consciousness into the back seat. It feels like drowning in cold mud. I'm going to close my eyes soon, not because I want to, but because it wants to. And when I open them, I don't think I will be the one looking out. I can hear the breathing now. It's not coming from the corner. It's not coming from behind me. It's coming from my own throat. Wait. There's a reflection in the laptop screen. I can see my face. I am smiling. I am not trying to smile. I am crying inside this cage of bone and meat. But my reflection is smiling, a wide, tight smile that stretches the skin too thin. The lips are moving. I am not speaking, but the lips are moving. Good night, my reflection mouths. I can't move my arms. I can't look away. The darkness is rising up from the floor, filling the room like black water. If you are listening to this, if you hear this, don't fall asleep. Don't let the silence in. It's here. It's in the fingers now. It's typing this. It wants you to know. It wants you to know that the door is open. It's so dark. I'm still screaming. Why can't anyone hear me screaming? The smile hurts. Good night.
Prince of Darkness.